What does Garten of Banban 4 hide off camera from the player? Garten of Banban 4 takes us even deeper beneath this cursed building into an area called the Kingdom. But what kind of weird things can we find out of bounds? In this video, we'll be taking a look behind the scenes of how this game is put together and what kinds of things the developers had out of view from the player. We'll also be breaking some things, like joining the fight with Banban and Nab and letting our kitty T-Rex friend escape. As always, I hope you enjoy this look at some odd things that aren't meant to be seen. Per usual, I'm going to hit you with a very brief recap of this chapter, so hang tight. We start off this chapter by getting chased by Tamataki and Chamataki. After evading them, we are lured towards a really cool remote before someone does the instant knockout thing on us that they do in the movies. We get dragged away, Sheriff Toadster hits us with a sick PowerPoint timeshare presentation, and then we meet up with the Queen. We now begin our quest to find 3 gears to fix an elevator that uses no actual gears. We collect some tickets, encounter the Jester, who has a snake for a hand, and then splinter cell our way through some vents. After getting the gear, we go to Dreamland with Stinger Flynn as Choo Choo Charles randomly assaults Banban. We wake up, slap ourselves in the face, and join Banban as we hunt down the next gear. Jumbo Josh wanders out to eat some vegetables, but gets sniped, and Nab steals this robot thing. Banban and Nab cage match fight, and we grab the second gear. We then do some observation duty on some boxes and fight a cat T-Rex, which is terrifying. We knock out the cat, grab a gear, and then watch a transformed Opila Chick fight that same cat. The Queen charges her laser and explodes, and we run to the elevator. Yeah, that about sums it all up. Recap aside, let's start with the title screen. So this title screen is a cutaway of an area in the kingdom. But zooming out, we can see that only this back wall and tent exist. The rest of the map is wide open, with nothing else out on this giant floor. Heading into the game itself now, let's talk about that chase scene area. So we're going to cheat for a second and let this monster run on by. Once our screen is done having a seizure, we can check out this back room. Or we can fall off the cliff. Oh hey, look, the cliff actually has solid ground beneath it, and we don't die. A pleasant surprise. Heading back up, we will now see we are behind Chamataki and Tamataki. You can do this without cheating, as I demonstrated in a previous video, but let's look at this broken jump scare in slow motion. So if we trigger the jump scare from behind the monster, we'll get warped to the front for the jump scare to play out. So restarting the game, now let's actually check out this room that our two-headed friend is still in. As you can see, it's really not much of a room, more like a platform, and the monster just stands here. But there are some interesting things that abounds in this area. For example, we have these large gray cubes. There's also some siding pieces and a duplicate stand floating out here that can later be found in the Kingdom area. And a demonic running version of Banban, Opila Bird, and Tarta Bird. It's odd because this running animation of Banban isn't used in this chapter at all. Above this, we have a cannon and a floating firework alongside some switches and doors. Way out of bounds, we'll find a lot of the characters used in this chapter though. We have the T-Rex cat, Stinger Flynn, a planking Sheriff Toadster, Queen Bouncelia, and the Opila Chick can be found over here too. And there's nothing inside her pouch in case you were curious. We also have the mutant Opila Chick, which is quite frightful. On the other side, we have a duplicate Chamataki and Tamataki alongside Bittergiggle the Jester. Banban is over here too, but far away by his lonesome. Overall, there's quite the party going on over here. Now, above Stinger Flynn, we'll find 2 of his giant eyeballs just floating above this entire area. They look kinda eerie up here, not gonna lie. But let's go back to that chase now though. When the chase ends, this is what the monster's animation looks like without any walls obscuring it, as it rotates 90 degrees and comes to a halt. Nice. Now normally, when you go to grab this remote, your player falls to the floor and gets dragged away. I cheated and had the bird in my hand, so we can see that now the bird is the one that gets dragged away and not me. Sorry about that, little Opila Chick. So because of my bird, I end up being able to move in this area somehow. And you aren't supposed to be able to until the questions are done. So we can advance this quiz while also just ignoring it altogether. We grab our remote, and then Toadster's dialogue begins to overlap as 2 separate events are taking place. It's kinda trippy, not going to lie. But before moving on to the kingdom, we have some out-of-bounds stuff to show off. Like this floating chair outside the interrogation room. It's the best seat in the house. Far beneath this bridge we eventually walk across, we'll find that it originally had railing. My hunch is that this railing was removed because it was easy to get Toadster stuck on it, as I was able to do just that in my game-breaking video. Now on top of this side of the building, we can find some floating platforms. There's a shorter dark gray and a long lighter gray. These can be walked on, but there's no real point to exploring them. The view from up here is nice though. Something funny I wanted to point out is that if you were to delete the bridge to the kingdom completely, Toadster will just do his entire animation sequence over here. The one where he opens the door and stuff. He walks in place because he doesn't know how to cross the gap. He then opens the doors telepathically before pacing back and forth and then soft locking. To free him from his suffering, I dropped him off a cliff. Although he landed on the death barrier and was spared. Next up, we meet the queen. And because it's a plot point, we're going to awkwardly check her pouch again. Still no laser, unfortunately. Heading back down into the kingdom, there is a big wooden door that never opens for us. So we're going to open it anyways. Knock knock, who's there? FBI, open up. So we bust through the door to find a whole lot of nothing. There is a giant room that is normally concealed in shadow, but with post-processing disabled, we can see the entire room is empty. So we leave, and we apologize about the door. Similarly, if we head upstairs, there's a walkway that normally ends in shadow too. As you can see, it just gets cut off, and only the railings continue onward. So we move on to collect some tickets that are thrown all over the place. But instead, we bust down another door and check out the hallway leading to the ticket counter. Nothing really back here though, but while we were breaking in, the creepy jester started peeking around the corner. He's half T-posing, half reaching out. We can see that as we approach, he just flies off down the hallway and vanishes. I can't believe he's going to walk all the way down the hallway though. Unlike us, who can run down here at super speed and then enter the last area first. Surprisingly, we can still spawn in the cat boss, but the jester isn't here at the start. Because the jester triggers this giant invisible wall to unload, we can't cross the room, and neither can the cat. We'll come back here though. So the transportation system here is really long. Longer than Chapter 3's, surprisingly. Plenty of time to fit in lots of character dialogue. Now the real destination takes us to the ventilation sector, and we can see just outside this area is Nab and Bittergiggle the Jester. Both of these characters are used here, so they're stored out here temporarily. Now, there is a secret room here that requires a green keycard, and this is what you can find inside of it. There's a new character on the wall, and it looks like they're a surgeon. Heading back into the main area, we now have the first real encounter with the Jester. So normally, when you walk into this hallway, you'll see a hand stretching out from the darkness. But with all the shadows disabled, we can see that the model is just absurdly stretched. Like so much that it's kinda creepy. This guy's face looks like it's getting sucked into another dimension. Because of how the weights are painted on the geometry, we get this horrific stretching effect because there's overlap between the head rigging and the shoulder joints, when normally only the arm would be affected by the pull. The second we draw near, this arm retracts, but instead of utilizing this same jester model, it is swapped out with a different one that has more properly painted weights and his eyes. A couple other interesting things here is that watching the jester jump scare in slow motion looks very strange. As you can see, his eyes go everywhere and only the head is resized for the jump scare. This instance looks like the geometry weights are painted separately though, so the head can resize without scaling the arms with it. After the jester retreats, if we fall him back into what normally is darkness, we can find him standing there. Touching him will trigger a jump scare. And in case you're wondering where Toadster went during all of this, he just waits in this back hallway. And if we delete the door, the jester can follow us out and can actually get stuck on him. Also, the jester isn't capable of following us through the doorway to the vent area. He just kind of gets stuck there and stares us down from far away. So in the vent area, Nab can pop out and jump scare you. And we can take a look at this in third person. The vent slowly opens, and Nab just kind of slides to you and eats your remote. If we check the out of bounds area, we'll find Nab is no longer there, as they were summoned over to us. Nab appears in the vent at first, laying down, and then their body will spring up into the jumping animation a moment later. Now, when we make it into Stinger Flynn's dream, it's a bit hard to see, but this is what that map looks like from above. It's a flat, grassy plain with a few trees scattered about. But you'll notice that Choo Choo Charles isn't visible. Also, Opila's head is cocked to the side really strangely. But just underneath this group of characters, we can find Choo Choo Charles stored in the ground. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really expect Charles to appear in this, but as soon as I heard that train horn, I immediately had flashbacks. So when Charles appears, he just warps to the map and runs in. We can watch our spider friend Nab try to calm down this fellow spider, but then out of nowhere, the car finally explodes and the dream sequence ends. Next up, we head out with Banban and we encounter Jumbo Josh. So Josh is just stored in the darkness down below, and there is a tan cylinder object stored in the other room that serves as a trap. This object stretches out and then grabs Jumbo Josh and drags him off screen down below before he suddenly unloads. So we can straight up ignore Banban's commands and warp down to Josh if we want to. He can't hurt us at all, and we can see this whole encounter play out right in front of our character. There isn't really anything else down here though, so let's move to the roof. Normally, we need to go down a big staircase now, but we'll do it from the roof. All the cool cats walk on the ceiling, man. Out of bounds down here, we can find a floating light and 2 copies of Jesters. They're just floating right outside the room where we can find the crown. One lacks a head, and the other lacks an arm. If we move on in this section, we then have the encounter with Nab Nab. So Nab Nab will just appear around this corner and then jump down below. As Nab Nab grabs the robot, we can see both of them despawn shortly after falling off the cliff. In the hallway in front of us, we can then see both of them reload and clip through the roof as Nab Nab starts to carry this metal lad down the hallway. The physics on the tongue are really funny to watch in slow motion, given how fast this would normally be swinging around. Down below we can find Banban marathon running his way through the hallway chasing the blue boy. When Nab Nab enters the room, they unload, and the same will happen to Banban. They will then appear behind the glass wall. So we're gonna go over this fight twice, and the first time we'll do it in slow motion with the lights on. The game normally hides the positions changing with the characters by clicking the lights off, but we can watch Banban flip around into the chokehold. He then Randy Ortons through the wall as his hulked out stunt double comes in to finish off Nab Nab. This set then unloads, and Banban reappears in his normal form. But let's quickly take a look out of bounds. So before any of this happens, we can find a copy of Nab Nab and the imposter robot hanging on these pink platforms out of bounds. And just beyond the wall where the fight scene takes place, we can find all the models needed to pull it off. We have another Banban, a Nab Nab, and then the transformed Banban right here. So they simply move through this wall into the room when needed. But now let's join the fight. If we hop into the room, we can watch these two battle it out as we gain the way. Both of the models still have collision, so they can push us around as the animation plays out. Luckily, we survive the ordeal. And as soon as this is over, all the assets go back to their normal idle spots behind the wall. If we somehow did things out of order, and sequence broke the game by triggering the fight before the chase, we'll be able to find Nab Nab still out in front, completely frozen in place. So that's neat. Next up, we have some cells to break into, and the first is Slow Celine. So, Slow Celine's shell is in this area, but it almost looks like Celine is too. A flattened model and texture appears to be beneath the shell, and it almost looks like we can see what is supposed to be a smeared eye. We cannot interact with her though. Bambolina is up next, and we can find her looking all depressed with some bowling pins. She doesn't acknowledge our presence, but she seems to be breathing really heavy. Across the hall we have Opila Bird and Tarta Bird, and we can walk right through them. Tarta's neck is bent just like Opila's was in the dream. Heading into Jumbo Josh's room, we can see that nothing is really holding his hands inside these metal can things. This pose really stretches his model though, and we can see his super short limbs where his arms connect. Now there's one final room with no one in it, or at least to my understanding, no one appears in it. But there is a giant hole in this room, and we can jump into it and fall off the map. Did someone say prison break? Huh. Not quite the best outcome, but I'll take it. So, when we get to the observation duty area, nothing really interesting happens. As you can see, the objects that change simply appear and reappear without moving. But if we hack our way to victory here, the Jester won't spawn and messes up the pacing of the next room. So the big cat T-Rex spawns named Kittysaurus, and we can go into the room where the Jester normally runs into. I was hoping I would be safe back here, but eventually the cat makes its way in here too, and I get jump scared when exiting. Can we talk about how weird this monster is though? Like seriously, its joints look so strange when it moves. So if we leave the cat alive and then get trapped by Bittergiggle, we'll see that Bittergiggle will eventually get stuck on the cat when he tries to leave. This poor lad doesn't know what to do, and his eyes roll to the back of his head as the cat begins to pet his face. Not the ending I was looking for, but here we are. If you somehow broke the game and left the cat alive, the second you hit the switch to free yourself, the cat will warp back into his holding cell behind the far door. The cat's head will be clipping through it like something straight out of Skibbity Toilet. We can delete the door and free the beast. We can see this turns the cat friendly, and it can no longer jump scare us. I'm not sure why this is, but a friendly cat is nice. Well, maybe not this cat. With my new friend, I decide to start destroying the building so the cat can come with me. I realize this is going to be a bigger problem than I thought, as every single object is causing the cat to get hung up, like this wall, or a random office chair. We make it pretty far, but then there's this light floating inside the cat, and I go to remove it, and I, remove the cat. Whoops. Good thing they have 9 lives? Real quick before moving on to the ending, if we load this properly and have the Jester appear, we can see his eyeballs are backwards, and they are looking at us. When he does start to move, he rotates and goes into this door, where he sits for the remainder of the boss fight. Following him into this door and touching him will trigger a jump scare too, in case you were curious. I did not notice this before, but his jump scare is also set to repeat, so it'll play over and over again after death. Although you can't see it because normally the in-game camera is covered up with a menu. The last thing to show off here is the Kittysaurus jump scare, and as you can see, the player's camera gets lifted into the air and moves straight down into the mouth of this mutant cat. Moving on to the final encounter of this chapter, when the queen jumps down, the shockwave knocks the Opila Chick into the ooze. But from a different angle, we can see the barrel still has a top on it. The bird clips through the top and then comes to rest inside the barrel, and just a moment later, the mutant bird that was showed off out of bounds earlier is warped over here and explodes out of it. The Opila Chick remains inside though. We can see this from a different angle here. Now, when this bird attacks the cat, we can see that if we slow this down a ton, that they just sort of clip through each other and then just sort of roll down the stairs. Mind you, this happens so fast in real time, and what you're seeing here is like 1/20th of the normal speed. The developers cover up so much of the animation sequence with sheer speed, and at the end, when the cat tackles the bird, they just clip through each other off camera. They then just unload a moment later. Up top, the queen is firing off her strange laser, and okay, fine, one last look. Still nothing but a laser in there, but it is clipping through the ceiling. Something I missed before is that there's also a nabbed Ellinian out of bounds too. I didn't encounter her while playing, but it's possible I just missed her. Back in the building, we board the elevator and delete it in style as the ending plays out. We don't die, and the game does end, so we can check out this ending screen that has a chair up against the wall in a giant empty room. There is a light floating above it though. But that brings us to the end of Garten of Banban 4. I hope you learned something new in this video. Drop a like or a comment as it helps out the channel, and I'll see you all real soon in the next one. Cheers!